Welcome everyone to the latest live stream event from the Age Diversity Forum. Some of you will know that we've been running these now for a few weeks. This is all part of our way of getting the message out that age diversity is an important consideration of the inclusion agenda. Why are we doing that? Why do we need to amplify the message? Quite frankly, the age part of the protected characteristics largely goes under the radar for many organisations. So as the Age Diversity Forum, we think it's our duty, and it's certainly our purpose to raise the profile of the values and benefits of age diversity in the workplace. This is all under our Making a Noise campaign that we've been running since the start of the year. It's part of a suite of information and data and media content that is available across our various channels. This live stream is a great opportunity to talk live to everyone and to discuss topical issues and stories and articles about age diversity, and also to give some signposts into events and give some information about the work that we do. So thank you for joining us either live or post-live. This is available on our YouTube channel that is managed, as well as these live events, by Sadie. Hi, Sadie. Sadie is our editor-in-chief for these media outlets. So, and Sadie will be keeping us on track as usual for this session today. We're here for 30 minutes, strict 30 minutes. Because as most of you know, and Sadie definitely knows, I can waffle on about stuff because there's lots to talk about. And but we want to keep to a strict 30 minutes, so hopefully it become a point in your diaries that you can join us during the time. So this week there's a couple of things we really wanted to focus on. There's been an article this week in one of the UK national newspapers, The Guardian, that really reflects on some of the discussions we've had over recent weeks about the multi-generational aspect of the workplace, and that within a workplace there can be, 2, 3, 4, 5 generations of people working in the same environment, from baby boomers to Gen X's to millennials. There's a whole host of different age groups that actually we love to put in those categories, but we should really be talking about smoothing out and bridging between those generations. And in some ways, this article, whilst I think it's trying to be, well, I know it's trying to be supportive of the age diversity challenge for a certain group of people in the workforce, it maybe potentially put some barriers up, unintentionally, hopefully. But if it's intended, then it's probably actually not helping overall. So Sadie and I have been chatting about this article since we saw it, and basically there is a research foundation that has that's talking about how, or the adverse effect that the COVID pandemic has had on in the employment market, and it's absolutely focusing on the over 50s, so the older workforce, and in the UK, that's how older workers are generally categorized. If you're over 50, you're an older worker. I think that sort of follows the alignment of how the DWP, the Department for Work and Pensions, counts people who are in that older worker category, or the older people category. They count between the age of 50 and 64, which is actually a whole other story, because actually that's probably out of date with legislation in the UK in terms of employment, but we'll come back to that, I'm sure, at a later date. But it's absolutely highlighting an issue for over 50s people that have maybe lost their job, unfortunately lost their job during the COVID pandemic, but also saying that it's going to be more difficult for organisations to employ these older people because organisations are more likely, for various reasons, and one of those is sort of is perception and myth and stereotyping, which we'll probably touch on in a minute. But there's potentially some incentives, and I know there is things like the apprenticeship scheme that was announced, a Kickstart scheme, is for 18 to 24-year-olds, but that's just one element. But it basically seems to be pitching older people against younger people by in the same article saying it's really difficult for older people because they've been adversely affected by COVID to get back into the workplace, because it's almost because younger people are in the way, which is just I don't think it's helpful. Sadie, do you want to jump in at this point, and what your immediate thoughts when we saw this article being in the press this week?
I would just say that when people start to help younger people, maybe there is less light on the issues of other generations, perhaps, and then they feel as though they're being helped less, when really it's probably just evening the playing field. But then, because then they're saying that they're being helped less, then people go to help them less, and then the younger generations feel like they're being helped less. And I think it just bounces back and forth between the two when it's not really needed. Just help them both. I don't know.
And I guess during that bouncing, that rebounding of challenge within that situation, that's how, you know, the stereotypes that I mentioned earlier, and the perception of how, you know, employment works for different age groups. That's how I think things come to bear. I mean, there's the old favourite that you know, older people take younger persons' jobs. Well, if you read this, that's certainly not the case. But it's not the case anyway. You know, if there is a good appreciation for equality in the workplace, and that everyone, whatever their age, can bring something of value to the workplace, then why should age form even a perceived barrier to being successful in getting a new job, or getting continual training and development within an organization, and promotion? So again, this it's not unusual, by the way, to see articles representing almost one side of the story in some regards, and by doing that, again, the wording used here is almost, I say, pitching between the different generational groups that do exist. As I said, there could be, you know, up to 5 generational groups working in one environment. Why would you want to put any sort of walls between those? And I think this comes back to a lot of what we've been discussing recently, and as the Age Diversity Forum, our mantra for removing that bias and that discrimination and the barriers to ensure that there's certainly more cohesive nature to the work practices that encourages transfer of knowledge, of experience, of know-how, because again, whatever our age, we've all got something to offer and to bring to the table. And something else we'll be touching on in a minute is the Champion Age Diversity Day on June the 11th. And one of the activities, one of the actions that we can all take on that day, at least that day, you know, to recognise age diversity in the workplace is to engage with a fellow work colleague, and maybe a fellow work colleague that maybe you haven't spoken to before, or maybe from a different generational group to yourself, to have that discussion, rather, outside of a formal mentoring or reverse mentoring situation. Not to say that they're not useful, because they absolutely are, and I think they can be used again in a more formal structure of development and progress for one's career. But just as COVID restrictions are being gradually relaxed, and we might find ourselves back in the office, and the ability to have a coffee in the canteen or whatever, have a chat with someone about maybe a work idea or a project or something that brings that collaborative nature to working together, that can actually formulate innovation within the workplace in terms of development of service or product or design that actually has a really positive impact to the performance of the company. And if the company performs well, then they're likely going to want to employ more people. So if you get multi-generational groups working together, it's actually can be a real employment generator. So absolutely busting myths about whatever generation takes jobs away from others. Let's get people working together to generate more success within the workplace, and as a result of that, boost the economy and more employment opportunity. So sorry, I've been rambling on a bit there, Sadie. Have I touched on anything that you wanted to come in on any of that?
I mean, I was just going to say that it's the same issue when you see people reporting on when people from other countries come into ours, and the whole thing is, oh, they're stealing our jobs and they're doing all of this, and they're not. Obviously, they're just getting jobs as we would, and then more jobs are created, and then more people can work. So instead of turning on people from other countries, we're now turning on people from our own. So I don't know. It just seems so useless to fight against one another about stealing jobs when it just creates more.
Yeah, you're right. I mentioned right at the beginning, why are we doing this? Because we feel that the age agenda doesn't get the attention that it deserves, even though it is as wrong, as unjust and illegal to discriminate against age. The age agenda is not immune to the challenges that other protected characteristics face, and other people from different minority groups or from different groups that may have been equally, if not more adversely affected by situations like the COVID pandemic. In terms of basic numbers, if we look at ONS data for unemployment, I think actually younger people are feared slightly worse than older people. If you look at the from a claimant perspective in terms of DWP figures, again, I briefly mentioned earlier about DWP counting 50 to 64. So it's probably not capturing everyone, because there's people beyond who are older than 64 who are still working and who still want to work and who still contribute to the workplace, because not only is it good for the organisation, as I was describing earlier, getting that multi-generational working, but the ripple effect and knock-on effect to that individual's own self-worth and well-being is huge, and how that have such a positive impact to them as individuals for wider societal reasons and community reasons. So big topics, but we probably need to get our language right, and our addressing the challenge in a more cohesive manner. And again, I like to think this is exactly what we're doing as the Age Diversity Forum, that we're very much about all the generational groups. Yes, of course, we understand there are challenges for older people, and there is data out there that confirms how older people can be adversely affected, and it can take longer to get back into the workplace. But this is all about attitude and a level of responsibility in some ways on organizations. And by the way, I was going to talk about recruitment there, but responsibilities, but actually organizations should identify, I should recognize actually if they widen their scope of recruitment and retention, then they're going to have a better range of skills to call on. They're going to have a better crop of people to work collaboratively together that actually create better results. And again, the whole business case for diversity, not just for age, for wider characteristics as well, is there. That it goes beyond the moral compass of it's the right thing to do, but actually it's business imperative. And as we transition out of COVID, those organizations, there's lots of discussion right now about those organizations with purpose and with good reputation and consideration for inclusion are ones that are likely to fare better in terms of not just being sustain their businesses and their organization, actually become more successful. So I think there's so many values and benefits to be gained for consideration for a multi-generational workplace. It's clear that as an organization, we need to do more in terms of raising the profile. And again, another reason why we are doing these live streams, and encourage articles that hopefully have the intention of raising serious challenges, but let's not segment and divide. Let's actually ensure that there is a partnership of understanding between these generational groups, so we're not pitching one against the other. And I guess it comes back to education again, something again, Sadie, we've been talking about over recent weeks. It seems we're coming back to common themes, but these are common threads, aren't they, to this whole challenge?
Yeah.
So a way of doing better, and we always challenge ourselves to do better, and to raise a profile. And I mentioned this earlier, and I said we'd come back to it. And as we get closer to this day, we want to make sure that there is opportunity for everyone to get involved in some fashion. We have Champion Age Diversity Day on June the 11th. We inaugurated this day in 2019, so this is our third year. And each time we've made a bit of progress in terms of raising the profile and doing various things. And again, no different this year. Like last year, we are aiming to have a live panel session. And then hopefully we'll be able to confirm speakers for that in the next week or two. We probably confirm it now, but we're just going to absolutely make sure. But we've also spoken to partners as well about extending that interaction with some other guest speakers and maybe a live roundtable event as well. So we'll be able to hopefully confirm a bit more about that next week. But the idea of that, again, is actually answers some of the challenges we've been talking about today with this particular article and the whole younger, older end, because the across those that panel and round table will be individuals from different generational groups, but I think all who have a common appreciation and understanding that it's actually good to share and to participate together in stuff, whether that's the educational academic path that goes into career and continued development, the values of that. So we certainly want to, as I say, amplify that message, and we'll be confirming that hopefully by the end of next week. What you'll see on our website page, we have a Champion Age Diversity Day website page which has various information and resources on it. Information, why it's important, and why are we doing this, and an invitation for individuals and organisations to get involved. And the great news is we've been approached by many organisations who are already partners with us, but also organisations that aren't, but actually want to showcase that they are identifying the age agenda as being important. So that's great as well. And we've last week, if you look back at our YouTube channel, there last week's live stream, we spent a bit of time talking about some of the activity. We had a top 10, didn't we, Sadie?
Mm-hmm.
We had a top 10 of suggested activities and resources. And as of next week, we've got some additional like media collateral that is going to be available on the website to download. So we went through a final design sign off this week on posters, on T-shirt designs, and banners for things like email signatures, and a banner that can be used at the top of websites, and all sorts of areas to use the media. And we've got our fantastic graphics designer Emma has come up with like a central, very colourful bit of imagery for the day. So we'll be launching that next week, which is great. So there's going to, as well as suggestions for people to get involved, there's going to be stuff for people to download and to print out, use on digital media, and I guess a lot of the suggestions revolve around showcasing and highlighting awareness to the day, and maybe some experiences that you've had, or challenges, but also some of the good stuff that's going on as well. I say we've got some T-shirts being done as well, which is just fantastic. Actually, the design transfers really well on that, so you'll be able to see all that next week. But around that as well, Sadie, do you want to mention the new series of videos that we started this week? And really quite a bold statement, I think.
Oh yes. So we're going to start a new series called "What Can We Do to Stop Ageism?" And it'll be posted every Monday. I think we're starting with the first one this Monday, aren't we? Yeah, it's going to be a list of things. We'll cover one thing every week of what people can do to stop ageism. Be short videos, only about 2 minutes, probably 3 minutes. So quick watch, and it could help everyone out in the long run if you do watch it. So please do when they come out.
Yeah. So hopefully easily digestible, but succinct and very direct in terms of just that. Hopefully you can see that that's quite a bold series title. What can we do to stop ageism? We see similar types of banners being held up for other protected characteristics that haven't been utilized in the same way, certainly for the age agenda. We thought, why not? It's such an important discussion point. The whole changing demographic, and we've talked about this in various articles that we've written, and you'll see this across our website. The changing population is being across the world is described as a global megatrend. We know that the age agenda has been highlighted in things like in the UK a couple of years ago, and I think it still exists. I think it's still a live document and a live idea today. Is that age is one of the 4 grand challenges in terms of the whole challenge to business and industry. Unfortunately, even though it is been highlighted, it still gets overlooked. So, and I think that's where, from a government perspective, I think there haven't really been too many, if you like, incentives or ideas around equalising age groups in terms of opportunity tend to go, again, a bit like the article we talked about earlier, tend to go either one way or the other. I think Sadie mentioned so earlier, but there's other people in sort of that middle bracket as well.
It's
and
focus on the old people or the young people, but you've got all the people in the middle too.
So, and I think this comes back to the education discussion we've had recently, and we will continue to have, that if at the earliest opportunity in the academic environment, if that education is there and it cuts through, then we're beginning to remove that perception of bias that hopefully then doesn't translate into the professional and into the work environment. Whereas at the moment, there was this top and tailing, as you say, there's people sort of in that middle group, they're probably the largest group, who have probably got perceptions and ideas already just because of maybe their lack of education and a lack of understanding at that point. And this is where, again, we've seen as part of the work we do with organisations in the Age Diversity Forum, where, if you like, that middle management group can struggle with ageism in terms of identifying what would be really helpful for their business needs, not having a fear factor for potentially maybe older, more experienced people coming in, and maybe not having the idea that a younger person can bring fresh views on new ways of working or process. And then by having those multi-generations, as we've already said, to have that collaborative, cohesive opportunity to drive business performance. So at all levels, at all generational levels, there's an opportunity. That the challenge is clear, and it becomes clearer when we divide between different age groups. So we must seek to at least mitigate, if not stop this ageist view of things. So as Sadie says, this is a new series, and the first one is all about a very fundamental attitude, Sadie.
Yeah, probably one of the most basic things that we can all do. It takes hardly any effort at all, and it can help massively. So it's very important, this one.
Yeah, and that is to have respect for your fellow colleague, your fellow human being, and so if we respect that each one of us has something to offer, something to give, and that we should share each other's know-how, experience, technical competence, whatever that might be, then we're all going to be better off for that. So Sadie, I'm being very good. I recognise that we're quite close to 11:30, which is most unlikely, I know. But so we've got that series starting this week, and we're running that through to June 11. I think on the day we're going to be probably running that every hour or so. I think we're going to have 9. The idea is to have 9, and they're going to be very practical things that, because we're asked all the time, what can we do? So hopefully these are ideas and opportunities to demonstrate what you can do, what you can adopt for attitude, for behaviour, for good practice that help to enable a cultural shift in the work environment. We've also got something cropped up this week about a book launch, and we'll maybe talk a bit more about that next week. So there's some good stuff in the pipeline. Again, we're here each week to talk about topical things, because it's things like this article that come up this week that we really need to challenge and to address, and to take the good parts of it, but also balance it with unintentional challenges it might impose. So let's break that down. Let's recognize that, let's identify that, and let's show how from that perspective the multi-generational aspect is so important to to keep in perspective. On that note, I think I'm bang on time, Sadie. How good is that? Have I missed anything? Have I missed anything in terms of?
Just to follow us on Twitter and to use the hashtags Making a Noise and
How could I forget?
Champion.
And the final thing, if I may, is our mantra for this whole Making a Noise, is to join us on the journey. You know, to join in, whether that's from afar in terms of, you know, the Champion Age Diversity Day gives you an opportunity to do stuff yourselves, to participate in stuff that we're organising, to take resources from our website, freely take them. But of course, we'd love you to also invest in the journey and invest in many ways in terms of adopting criterion and commitment to the cause, and invest in the Age Diversity Forum, that champion opportunity to really demonstrate your age diversity credentials. On that note, thank you so much for joining us live or subsequently. Do follow the YouTube content. It's forever growing, and you can also subscribe on there as well. If you haven't already, please do subscribe. Is that the thing to say, Sadie?
Yes, like and subscribe.
Thanks so much, everyone. See you again next week.